Hey there, welcome back to the Steel City Sports Podcast, coming to you from Pittsburgh. Today we're going to be talking about the three most surprising teams versus the three most disappointing teams in the NFL so far. And we actually did do this list earlier in the year, but I felt like we should do an updated version now. You know, a lot of stuff has changed. Some has stayed the same, but I felt like it would be a good time to go over this list again and talk about this. So let's start with the three most disappointing teams first. Starting with the third most disappointing team this far is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The reason why I put them in here is because this is a team we all had expectations to be one of the best teams in the NFL. And so far, their defense has played really well. It's fifth in terms of yards allowed per game. But the offense is just mediocre. It's literally 16th, mid of the pack. Brady's playing well, but outside of Brady, the offensive line can't really protect him too well. There's been a lot of instability with the weapons, and the offense just looks flat. I don't know exactly what the problem is, and the Bucs have a couple really ugly losses this year, particularly against the Steelers, and the Panthers was probably the biggest upset of the year so far. So they're going to make playoffs still just because of their division, you know. But if you would have told us they'd be 500 this far into the year, it is definitely surprising just given all the talent that they have on this roster. So I have them as the third most disappointing team. Coming in at the 2 spot, we have the Denver Broncos. And this is really one of the most bizarre situations because the Broncos actually have the second best defense in the NFL in terms of yards allowed per game. But the offense is 22nd, and they actually rank dead last in red zone scoring. This is just, you know, given what the expectations were for the Denver Broncos, even if you didn't think they'd be a playoff team, you still thought that they would be a good team, you know, in the hunt for playoffs. But they're 3-6 right now. They're very stagnant, and you can't blame all this on Nathaniel Hackett. I know that he's kind of getting most of the blame here, and he certainly deserves his fair share, but Russell Wilson has been putrid this year. It looks like his ability to throw the ball deep is completely gone. It looks like he has a noodle arm, and I don't know if it's a thing since he got paid now that he just doesn't want to run, but that was a big part of Russell's game in Seattle that allowed him to be one of the best players in the league, and he's just not doing it anymore. I don't know if it's the injuries took their toll or if he just doesn't want to do it anymore, but he doesn't look like the same player. He kind of looks washed, and it's kind of a disaster for Denver after you paid him all that money. And we always said about Denver, if they just get a good quarterback, they'll be good because they always had a good roster in place. They were just missing a playmaker, and Russ was supposed to be that answer. They have, again, the second best defense in the NFL, and they're 3-6. It's a disgrace. And like I said, some things didn't change. That video I made about a month ago, the Rams were at that 1 spot for the most disappointing teams, and that trend has continued. They're now 3-6, and similar to the Broncos, they have a really good defense. It's 6th in the NFL in terms of yards allowed per game. But the offense is dreadfully bad. They're actually 31st in yards per game, which, given the people that they have on that team, that is a disgrace. That's a failure, especially for the fact that Sean McVay is renowned as one of the best offensive minds in the NFL. And Matthew Stafford has played like garbage this year. 241 yards per game is pretty low, and also an 8 touchdown to 8 interception ratio is putrid for a guy of Matthew Stafford's level, and the offensive line is really not protecting him. So, you know, he forces the ball to cup a lot. I mean, the other receivers on the team don't seem to really get open. I was way wrong about Allen Robinson. I thought he was going to be a home run hit here, you know, a stud, but he has looked basically pedestrian in this offense. They've dealt with injuries as well, but the offensive line looks really bad. Stafford's not playing good. And I don't know what the answer is for the Rams. You know, I picked them to go back to the Super Bowl this year just given all the stars they have on this team, but they just look bad. They can't put up points. And it really, for them, is kind of scary because they went all in on this roster and they're paying all these people big money and they're not a good team right now. Very bizarre. Going now to the three most surprising teams. At 3, we have the Vikings. And the reason why I didn't put them higher is because I did expect them to be good. If you remember, I picked them to win the NFC North, but I would have never believed that they'd be this good. They're 8-1, and the offense is playing really well, very efficiently. The thing about this defense, too, is the defense honestly hasn't played that well. They're 29th in terms of yards allowed per game, and situationally they've been good, coming up with big plays, but, it usually comes down to the offense having to win very close games, and I attribute that to their head coach. Kevin O'Connell is a home run A+ hire there, switching from Mike Zimmer. And you just got to give a lot of credit to how well run this offense is. Kirk Cousins having probably the best year of his career. Justin Jefferson, I think, is in the conversation for best receiver in the league. They just traded for Hawkinson, a really good tight end. So they're loading up right now, and they're definitely going to be able to challenge the Eagles for that 1 seed spot in the NFC. Right now they have the same record. Obviously the Eagles beat the Vikings, but they're in the hunt right now to get that number 1 seed, and I don't think anyone would have predicted the Vikings being, that dominant so far. So they're here at 3. And at 2, we have the Giants. This is a team in the past 2 to 3 seasons that's done nothing but underachieve. But right now they sit at 7-2. And the thing that's very interesting about the Giants is statistically they don't really impress. Offensively they're only 23rd in yards per game. Defensively, they're only 18th in yards allowed per game. What that tells me is they're very well coached and they play very well situationally. Also, Saquon Barkley is having the best year of his career, having 931 yards and 6 touchdowns through 10 weeks. And Brian Dable, I've been saying this, if you listen to my power ranking videos, I've been saying this basically throughout the whole year, is that Brian Dable is the favorite to win Coach of the Year. Just the way he's been able to build a culture with the Giants and turn around the trajectory of this franchise. He's using Daniel Jones perfectly. They're not asking him to make big plays. They're not overly relying on him. They're using him more as a game manager, which extremely suits him. And if you remember, a while ago I said Daniel Jones at his best is like a lower version of Kirk Cousins, and that's kind of what you're seeing right now in this offense. So I think you got to give a majority of the credit for Dable here for turning this thing around, and they're a viable playoff team right now. Very interesting. And staying in New York, by far and away, the most surprising team this year has been the New York Jets. It's not even really a debate, in my opinion. For the fact, the expectations of what we thought the Jets would be, particularly me, I thought the Jets would be a bottom 3 team this year. And big part of that was I didn't trust Saleh as a coach. This team's very young, so I didn't really have much expectations for their players, but they are playing really well right now. They have the 7th-ranked defense in the NFL, and they beat the Bills. No one had them beating the Bills in that game. I thought it would be a good game, but no one actually had the Jets coming out on top, and they're actually through 10 weeks or 11 weeks, whatever we're at right now, they're actually 2nd in the AFC East over the Buffalo Bills, which if you would have said that before the season started, you would have been laughed out of the room because, like I said, the Jets had 0 expectations going into this year, and they're just a really good team. Their run game is very good. Even with Breece Hall going out, they've been able to kind of pivot to, Michael Carter, and they traded for James Robinson. And like I said, the defense has been spectacular. Sauce Gardner looks like he is already arguably the best cornerback in football in his rookie year. He's running away with Defensive Rookie of the Year. They are just very well coached. I give all the credit to Saleh. I was very critical of him, but he's definitely won me over. They've built something real there with the Jets, and credit to them. So that's the video. If I missed any teams you think should have been on either one of the disappointing or surprising, let me know in the comments down below. And please subscribe. Thanks for watching.